wanna see the snakes. I don't wanna see the lions. Or the gorillas or the apes.
The events of Session 18 are the result of hasty action, I think, from both the players and the DM. And it was a pretty good one. I have feedback and criticisms and ideas, but we'll go through those as the video goes on. But we did learn a lot of stuff. The pre-session began with talking about... I arrived 20 minutes late. I'll begin by saying that. No, that's on me. Because I forgot that we started at 5 PM GMT instead of 6. And that made... so I was a bit embarrassed. But, fortunately, we're all a bit late ourselves. Talking about work, crystal meth, and Nokias. How nice. And apparently, I'm not the youngest of our group. I thought I was, but I probably look the oldest, so I'm willing to accept that. People don't believe when I tell them I'm 29. They don't believe that at all. They think I'm in my 40s, which works for me. Yeah, I think maybe when I change my beard, I look considerably younger. I don't know. Anyway, so... also as well, my notes are on my PC, which might work out a bit better, actually, when it comes to reading off the camera, but... we'll see as time goes on. So we basically decided rather hurriedly that we want to jump into the well. At least a few of our members do. Eliza and Ellie want to jump into the well, and they do about halfway through the session. After we keep going back and forth about talking about about this circle that we found that has spells and runes upon it. Ellie finds journals. She's put them in a backpack. She distributes them among us to read them. We take about a short rest looking through these journals. And Yito, as he's sort of looking through the journals and the circle, finds that this is what he calls old magic. Because he's a time traveller, he's from a rather distant land. Well, I say distant land, from a distant time. So it's going to be very different for him than it is for us. The circle, we discover, has an aura of necromancy and is destroyed. Eliza stabs it with a rapier. Ellie throws a rock at it, and I use mold earth to sort of scramble the runes in the floor that they're on. It seems as though the earth was the circle was made by like shoving a heavy object around to make indents like filled with some sort of black powder, maybe ash or some other like coal maybe or something like that. So Yito is looking through his notes, finds information. We sort of collaborate together, and myself, Ellie, and Yito, we only know we learn of the Red Wizards in the notes, and that they're not well liked in the Sword Coast, but that's about it. And I was a bit disappointed because I really, really wanted to go on about how the Red Wizards, the Red Wizards have a council, and they have a council like they're ruled by a lich, which is good for Garvel Grimhammer, Cleric of the Grave, Servant to Kellenvor, Lord of the Dead, Judge of the Damned. Yeah, and I wanted to go into all that. In fact, bear with me a second. I really wanted to share this book that I bought from DM's Guild, Thay, Land of the Red Wizards. A fantastical read. Strongly recommended. This is exactly the sort of information that I want in the adventure books. It goes into so much stuff. It tells you first of all, flat out, the people of Thay. So it tells you about the people, it tells you about Thayan cuisine, it tells you about places of interest, places to go, it talks about the government, it talks about the military, it talks about... it gives you monsters as well, some interesting ones like the Poltergoat, and the Many-Hued Goat, and a Proto-Dracolich as well. I don't want to read too much into the stat blocks there in case our DM does decide to use them, because I gifted this the PDF of this to our DM. But yeah, it's some fantastic information, because I'm really interested in Thay. And also as well, you get background stuff as well. If you decide to play a Red Wizard, I might make one of my characters a red wizard. The book, and I'll probably do a review on it at some stage in much better quality than I normally do these session recaps. And when I do like my Lost Man of Phandelver adventure review, it probably will be with much better production values than this. I say much better, not much better, but enough. But yeah, I really wanted to go into like my special interest and just like info dump everything about Thay, just like produce wikis, so like just have Garvel black out as he's just staring a 1,000-mile stare, talking about Thay. Moving on, we do know that Yito has a lot of information as well coming from the future. He knows that Dread Tyrant is not a name; it's more a title or a rank in the Thayan military or politics councils, that sort of thing. Dread Tyrants have their own circles of influence. They are in current Thay, they are essentially like lieutenants to the council, but in the future they are the fixers and go-doers, as Yito's player had said. Black Hand and Black Spider, I think, are also titles as well. And it goes into information as well. These notes we get as well that talk about Lolth and Bane, how Neza the Black Spider is a priest of them both, and this Cost person, I think their name was Dela Cost, I think. I can't quite remember, but yeah, they go into it. I've got some screenshots of the notes as well, going into like the journals and whatnot. We do confirm a few things here, like for instance, like they are headed to Thunder Tree, but we don't know exactly how long ago that was or where they will be. They talk about the Rock Seekers and how there's basically only one left alive now, and even though that might be unlikely at this point. Yito asks about our encounters with goblins as this is going on. We tell him, Eliza says, "How many do you want?" He asks about artifacts. We tell him about the Jade Frog statue, the jeweled eye patch, the ruby, the goblinoid mask, the bell of silent alarm, but none of these really use any have any useful information to him. Sister Gorel does not appear to be one of the face changers mentioned in the notes. When I use the Bell of Silent Alarm, I think of her, and just to see if this face changer is, if she's like a face changer or whatever. Because like if she, my thinking is that if she was a face changer, she wouldn't hear the bell. But no, she says she hears a ringing in her ears. And I apologise for causing it. And he also knows as well these face changes, these doppelgangers from his time as well. We get a description of Dread Tyrant. They are bold. They have a symbol between their eyes on their forehead. They're kind of androgynous looking, according to Sister Gorel. Eliza recognises the symbol, but Eliza's player doesn't when it's shared with us. Our DM told us not to reverse image search it, so what did I do? I reversed image searched it, and I couldn't actually find anything. Like the image that came up was a Star of David, basically. If you're curious at all, that's what it was. So I imagine our DM has repurposed it. So fair enough, fine. It is a symbol of. It's an alternate symbol of necromancy, perhaps not from the school of necromancy or the sacred symbol that you have to make for the necromancy symbol. But it might also be like some sort of necromantic flag or something like that, or some emblem. Or maybe, hey, maybe magic has different languages or dialects, that like in the Sword Coast, like that might be the symbol of necromancy. But in Thay, this might be the one that they use there. I don't know. So we all roll for Arcana, basically. Now, this circle, I keep going back and forth. My notes are all over the place, because I guess we were all over the place at this point. The circle from the Neverwinter Woods in Eliza's backstory, where she freed two prisoners that were going to be sacrificed in the circle. It's very similar, but I don't think she knows the. Oh, she might know the symbol, or the symbols on the circle, but I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, Lionel is. I want to mention this as well. Lionel is getting kisses from Eliza, who would kiss weasels, any weasels she finds in the woods.
I love animals. That's why I like to kill them.
I think Eliza should multiclass into Druid, to be honest, but still, mind you, I think Eliza's player has actually, has got a Druid called Zuala, who I think she really likes playing. It's very powerful. I've played with her in a few one-shots. Amazing stuff. The sister doesn't need any healing, but she does need rest, so she'll lie down in the tent once Yito's spoken to her. Oh, that was the plan initially. But yeah, Yito asks her in the most tone-deft is very different. In the most tone-deaf way of the harrowing experiences that she's gone through and that everyone else has gone through. Merry blessings, sister! How do you do? And she's shaken, but otherwise fine. And eventually, after some other questioning, she's asked who she is. Because she says that she has allegiances, but we don't know who they are, and she basically tells us, because Yito rolled quite high for persuasion. He rolled 19 versus her insight. He is nutty, but he seems genuine in what he says. That like he is from the future, and that we need the information to help her to prevent that future from happening. So she reveals herself to be an agent of the Harpers. There are very few in existence in the future that can communicate to one another. They may actually even be under a different name. Most of the Harpers were rooted out and killed, and now they have to operate, or rather, in the future, they have to operate with even more secrecy than they normally would. Eliza calls this sort of history fistory, because it's future history. Ellie rolls 15 to decide, to determine how much she knows about the Harpers, and she knows that they have bases in the main cities, and they whisper of things that you wouldn't typically know. They are information brokers who are very difficult to find. If you want to know something, a Harper will know it, but you've got to find them first. They are the H team. They maintain good preserved knowledge and keep collateral damage to a minimum during operations, and they want to ensure that civilization remains, well, civil, and that they can overcome what's happened and happening to the world. And strangely, they say, this is something that confuses us all, sometimes it's better for people to do good without them knowing we're doing good. And she also says as well that in the past we've been at war is a bit overkill, in conflict with the Church of Bane and Thay. It's part of my duty to prevent whatever could happen. So yes, another thing as well, like I don't think it's mentioned in the book. I haven't read the entire book so far, but from what I understand, that Thay, like the Sword Coast, actually can't go to war with Thay, because it's essentially like any side that enters that conflict would basically suffer a Pyrrhic victory. Like Thay is not against using necromancy. In fact, part of its I think a large part of its military and governance involves necromancy. I mean, it is itself a necrocracy or majocracy in that it's it is run by a lich, or was run by a lich that we know of before. So yeah, so they're not against necromancy, so that's already a big win. So it's the ethical side and the moral side. But yeah, like, even if like the Sword Coast has more units and forces and all this kind of thing, I think Thay is actually kind of prepared for war. And we don't really want to ignite a cold war. I mean, Garvel does. Garvel doesn't give a damn. He will gladly go to war with Thay. He'll go to war single-handedly, but but he doesn't know enough about Fae to do that. So, okay. All of a sudden, Ellie leaps down the well, and Eliza follows, wrapping some rope around herself, and she leaps down, and I'm. And I have to, well, bloody fool adventurers! As they're going down, and I have to grab the rope as best I can. There's 200 feet of it, so it's not like there's any urgent rush to it. And Eliza's echo follows as well. Now they're going down deeper and deeper into the well, and Ellie has a light cantrip that she can reveal more as she swims, and their ears pop as the pressure builds, and they start to come across a vortex that's pulling them sort of in 2 different directions. They can either take the vortex further down, they can either let it take them lower down into the well, or they could try and fight it and maybe reach the surface again, but it's very difficult. They suspect that it's some sort of drainage feature. Eventually they start to enter this sort of waterfall bit where it's like a circle of water and they're in the center, like a tube of water, and they're in the center of it, and they're sort of just floating there, and it's almost like they're levitating in this circle of water, this tube of water that like a glass of Coke without the glass, to give you an example, and they're just sort of floating in there, just sort of looking around. What are we doing? So they decide that they're going to leave, and they plop out of the tube of water, and they start seeing massive movements. It's time to roll initiative. This is because giant snakes have appeared. Snakes? Why did it have to be snakes? So a giant snake attacks and is launching itself towards Eliza and Ellie, who are trying their best to wade through this waist-high, at least chest-high, like shoulder-high water on Ellie, essentially trying to doggy paddle or whatever to the easternmost side of the map. And Eliza's having to wade through it quite heavily because it's like waist-high on her. And this snake is just moves and coils itself around this southernmost pillar, this southeasternmost pillar, and is attempting to bite and sort of lash its gigantic body around the characters. But unfortunately, it's not doing all that great. They move to this door and slam it shut behind them and bar it. Fortunately, like the sort of rusted bars aren't quite rusted enough to actually let the creature break through. So now they're sort of thinking about what's going on, and we're starting to wonder, like, what the 3 of us at the top, myself, Professor Yito, and Sister Gorell, are starting to wonder what we're supposed to do. Like, there wasn't any signal we're going to give them. There wasn't any sort of any plan to this. Ellie just went down, and Eliza jumped down with her because she was the most eager before. So I decide to go, what the hell? I'm gonna say, right, if either of you hear a sudden ringing in your ears, that's me ringing the bell of silent alarm. Explain how it works and say, if I see them, if there's any danger, I want you to come down after me. So I immediately go to the back of the well, put my arms back, and launch myself into the water. And I didn't roleplay this at the time, but I was rather enjoying my sink into this sort of claustrophobic environment. A rather claustrophiliac for Garveld. Garveld Grimhammer is very much into his tight spaces, like coffin-like, tomb-like rooms and such. So he was quite comfortable, just like resting like that. I was probably smiling away as he's being sucked away by the vortex, and get a bit too carried away with it. And as I make it out of the sort of glassless tube, I yell out for the fool adventurers, and Ellie and Eliza hear it, and Eliza says, "Did you? Does that sound like Garvel to you?" And Ellie says, "Either that or the water got real grumpy." The other snake is trying to attack. It is trying to attack me, and it bites, and they both try to they both try to, like, or one of them I should say, because there's more than these two snakes. One tries to grapple me and constrict me, and as always, Ellie and Eliza come to the aid of the party. They leave this room and start rocketing out and try to draw the attention of the other snakes from each other, and so as this is all going on, it's like around now. It's like the second round. Ellie's shooting away with a crossbow, stabbing with a rapier, doing booming blade, sneak attack damage, all this other stuff that rogues do. Eliza's wading through the water to try and get the other snake's attention. I ring the bell of silent alarm to signal Yito, who's climbing ever so slowly down the rope, going, "This is a terrible idea, this is a terrible idea, this is a really terrible idea." Lionel also hanging onto the rope, trying to peer under the water but not seeing anything. Sister Growl just leaps straight down without a care and has Yito tumbling down when he hears the alarm bells. And so, at this point, Yito's player has to take a quick break. But combat continues anyway. Another snake appears. I think there was a higher number of snakes in here, but because one of the players had to take a break, one of them might have conveniently disappeared. So Eliza's stabbing away at this snake that has me grappled, going, "Let's go of the dwarf!" And rolls a natural 20 to hit as well, and does 19 damage, and she lunges the blade underneath the jaw to its brain. And Ellie as well is going like, "Nah, nah, 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 nah," like one of the thieves from Spyro, and is just holding this light cantrip and shooting a crossbow to try and draw the attention of the colossal snake. Like one of them is much larger than the rest, like gigantic. And yeah, she's doing a lot of damage, like booming blade and all this sort of thing. Another snake appears, grapples me, and Eliza kills it, and once again goes, "Let the dwarf go!" And she just kills it. She kills everything. Eliza just slaughters everything. In fact, I might as well just end the combat talk there and just say that she, like, on her final kill, she rolls a 25 to hit, she rolls 12 damage, uses an action surge, 25 to hit again, 13 damage, and I think that was exactly how much it needed. 13 damage, like, to kill it. And she yells, "Nobody hurts my friends!" And she swipes and bifurcates this snake. Like, cuts it from arsehole to cakehole, end to end, just split in two. Like a banana peel. And it's now a two-headed snake. Great. So Eliza calls me the fool adventurer for charging at one of the snakes instead of using my my cantrips or spells. And the thing is that, like, there was a purpose to this. It wasn't trying to be an idiot or getting too hot-blooded. I mean, like, as a player, like as a character, yeah. And I was trying to, like, get into the barbarism thing. Like, if I wanted to multiclass into barbarian, Garvel was going to hope that he could get grappled and then he could like bite into it or something like that. It would have only done like an unarmed strike damage or whatever, which is like 4 damage. I get a +4 to it, I think. Yeah, unarmed strike, and it's bludgeoning damage, which is fine because Garveld's teeth are not very good condition. Like, yeah, he could bite them with his gums. There, that apparently just 3 damage. And I was trying to set up that, but that didn't work because Eliza was killing everything. So amazingly well as well. And yeah, I took a lot of damage. Like, I'm now on his 6 out of 35 hit points. Like, it ain't gonna take much to knock me down. And honestly, I was in a really bad mood with this. Because I thought, right, okay, I'm doing this to set up the idea of leveling it, multiclassing into Barbarian on my next level up. But Eliza's just too powerful. So the roleplay potential for that is now gone. And all the mechanical... Well, I mean, the roleplay potential for it hasn't gone, but the mechanical benefits of it have. There is... I mean, like... As a... Like... I love half-casters. I love Arcane Trickster... Well, I like Arcane Trickster Rogue. I particularly like Ellie's playing of it. I have to say that I think it's the role player that makes the Arcane Trickster for me, to be honest. Like, we've got a Paladin, we've got a Cleric, we've got Yito as a full caster, fine. And then we have a Marshal, and I've never really given much credit to fighters where credit is due. But I have to say, Eliza's players playing of it is incredible. I think it's because I'm still bitter over like Baldur's Gate and the fighters there, and fighters in video games and warriors in video games in general, and how they're not really necessary because video games are basically always about balance to a very sanitized effect, and like you don't need a warrior in the party because everyone else can fight. Yeah, and, like, combat is inevitable, and the game insists that you be able to play the game as any class and beat it as any class on the highest difficulty, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, so I thought, right, oh, okay, so that's gone. I was having a bit of a sulk, and Garveld is sort of like gone. Garveld's gone insane from his near-death experience. He's reminded of an arena match that he saw with a giant centipede and how the giant centipede ran, and he didn't quite understand why it ran. That was like one of the major events in his life when he saw this giant centipede run or slither away, and he didn't understand like why doesn't the centipede want to go to Kellenbor's realm and find peace, a better life than this one. So that's why he sort of became I want him to get a few levels in Barbarian because he can then maybe do that. But that's kind of out the window now. He's now instead, like, because I'm in a bit of a sour mood, or I was at the time. I saw someone who I haven't seen in a long time today, so that kind of perked me up. This video would have been a lot more negative otherwise. So yeah, so we're thinking, okay, right, well, Barbarian's practically out. So what do I do now? Do I just stay as a Cleric? Which is kind of boring but practical. Which suits me. But yeah, I don't know if it's right with this character though. I was thinking of other things, like maybe I could be a ranger, perhaps. Yeah, I could maybe go into a ranger, choose like undead as my favourite enemy, mountains as my favourite terrain, become a bit of an undead hunter. Not as practical, but flavoursome, somewhat. But is the flavour worth the net negative of not having Revivify more spell slots at 5th level Cleric? And like tracking enemies and things like that, you know, a D10 instead of a D8 hit points. Yeah, what else? Oh, there's also the Blood Hunter as well, which is unofficial material on D&D Beyond, created by Matt Mercer, and which is basically like D&D's Witcher, essentially, to reduce it to its base component. And if you want to multi-class into it, you have to have a strength score or a strength or dexterity of 13, which I do. I have 14, and you have to have an intelligence score of 13, which I don't have. Oh yeah, I do have. yeah, but I can also, however, I can use as an optional rule if our DM allows. I mean, this all depends on if the DM will allow me to be a blood hunter in the first place. Like, I can use wisdom instead of intelligence. Great. 1d10 hit die. Great. Weapons, martial weapons. Great. Dexterity and intelligence saving throws. Great. Yeah, some nice skills and some interesting ideas. So the reason why I was thinking of like multiclassing into Blood Hunter after this experience, this near-death experience, is because like I have just become so maddened by the experience of what happened that I end up tapping into a force that I didn't know was there. Like the insanity, the adrenaline, casting spells that I didn't even know existed or whatever, or twisting the magic that I've been blessed with to suit my needs in a more vile way. That could also make me a bit more useful in combat. Like, for instance, at second level, you get fighting styles. So I could go for dueling, so I could have a +2 to damage rolls with that weapon while wielding a shield. Great, so I can still be a cleric and be quite useful in combat. Crimson Rites as well are really interesting. It's a shame that you've got to be 14th level to do necrotic damage with Rite of the Dead. But you can have Rite of the Frozen doing cold damage. I don't want to get too excited because I don't know if my DM is going to allow me to multiclass into this, but it is a possibility. It's got some good plug curses and, of course, the orders, like Order of the Ghost Slayer. Sounds really, really good. I like that. I like that a lot. There's some really cool stuff. But yeah, so anyway, everyone's here now at the base of the well, and we start looking at this room that we're in. And if it weren't for how badly I did previously, I would have contributed to the history checks here, because mountain dwarves get advantage on history checks when it comes to stonework. When you make an intelligence history check related to the origin of stonework, you are considered proficient in the history skill and add double your proficiency bonus to the check. So I think I said something about advantage earlier. I do apologise if that wasn't correct. So I can add I can have +6 to history instead of +4. Great on history checks. Yeah, but I didn't, because Scarveld was just a gibbering mess at the end of that. And so the party's carrying up these stairs that we discover, and yeah, the party's finding all sorts of things. Like they find there is like moss, but there's also like moss covering up these engravings, text, and different parts of the grooves. That was it. Yeah, like moss covering up the grooves and near the steps, and there's arcane writing, and these symbols are more intricate than what Yuto knows. They are chronergy, but they're much more advanced and elaborate. Perhaps because chronergy is a newer kind of research, or a lesser known kind of research. I don't know if this is like the Rosetta Stone or whatever, the case of the Rosetta Stone or something like that for him. Or he's deciphered more language here than he ever knew existed, when it comes to the arcane dialect and whatnot. He recognises bits and pieces, but not the bigger picture, even with a roll of 26, which I think was like 19 + 7, I think. Ellie's looking around for traps as she reaches the tops of the stairs, along with Eliza, and they find these 4 statues. These 4 statues, just let me bring up a picture. Go clockwise. So the northeasternmost statue holds a sword and a staff with a plaque saying High Arcanist Zirquin. time moves with a couple of hands. The southeasternmost statue is pointing west to the one holding a book in the southwest. The southwestern statue holds a book that reads in Draconic, a day gone, a day passed, a day ends, a new day begins. And pointing at that book also is the northwestern statue, is pointing straight forward. Yito knows the High Arcanist as a wizard or scholar who wanted to expand upon the Mythalars. Mythalars being the sort of 200-foot stones, I believe, that sat in the centre of the city, although every city was different. And if that gets destroyed, well, so does the city. Bad things tend to happen, like the city being destroyed. So that's really the end of the session. We're trying to now figure out how to move this door. I mean, I don't think we've actually tried to open this door to the south. I think we're just waiting to... I think we're trying to get... it might be an idea, but apparently we've got all the clues we need. So Garveld's basically just got to sit this puzzle out because he's not in any state of mind to do so. So he's he's gonna sit quietly in the corner, just running his hand through this trough of water. It's probably like one of those urinal troughs or whatever used by these ancient humans, but whatever. He's gonna underneath his hand certain anyway and just enjoy the sensation of the water in this rather claustrophobic tomb. I say claustrophobic, these statues are 8 foot high and 5 feet wide thereabouts. So so it's not terribly a tight space. But yeah, we need to figure out what this means. Day gone, a day passed, a day ends, a new day begins in the statue. The statues as well, one of the statues can point as its elbow, so I think it can maybe move left or right, something like that. Or maybe you can move up and down. But there is one, I think it's the one that's pointing straight forward at the northwest, that can go up or down, or something like that. So... our DM has told us that if we have any ideas, we need to DM them to specifically. But I don't know. I haven't got a clue. Like, I was looking through. Apparently, the answer may have been in the journal. I looked in the journal, but apparently the answer is more of what's in the room. There is a pedestal in the centre with like sort of clock face marks around it. Shattered stones. I genuinely don't know what we're supposed to do here. And I guess like this is a complaint before we've even attempted the puzzle. But it's like it's one of those things of like you've got to guess what the DM's thinking. What mood is the DM in today? Like, and that's not a criticism of our DM specifically. That's a criticism of like video game puzzles, for instance. Like in point and click adventure games, like you just have to hope that the DM had some ideas, like the developer was like not high, you know, not on the Colombian marching powder or whatever when he designed the puzzle. Like there's some like really crazy games. Like there's one where you've got to put paint in someone's cup of tea, and some poor sod's cup of tea, and like I don't think it was intentionally to make them blind or whatever, but there you go. That's the sort of thing that happens in normality, where you play a really horrible antagonist. But anyway, the point is, moving on from all that, we'll see how this goes. I think our characters can use our intelligence to figure it out. I imagine Sister Gorel will eventually. It might cost more time, but I think we'll get out of here alive. I don't think we're going to just be locked in here or whatever. But yeah, we need to think of a way to get past this puzzle. A day gone, a day passed, a day ends, a new day begins. I'm trying to think. See, I want to actually sit here and solve the puzzle now. A day gone, that's 1. A day passed, 0. Day ends, 0 minus 1. New day begins, 0. Is it a combination rather than... Because I'm thinking like, oh, we've just got to have the right hands on the clock, pointing to the clock, whatever. But is that it, or is it like a combination on a safe? Like 1, 0, minus 1, 1. No, 0. You know, going back in days. I don't know. I haven't really given you enough information, I don't think, to actually have this solved. If anyone does actually post a comment, which no one really ever does on my videos, but if anyone does actually post a comment on this, and solves it without the information that my DM had given you, that I have given you, well, congratulations. Join our game, please. We need you and your brain. So yeah, that's a session recap. A very long and drivelly recap, where I mostly talked about blood hunters and being miserable in the second half. But yeah, it's been fun. The next session might be in 2 weeks' time. I think our DM and one of our players is taking a break, so we might leave it. There might be a one-shot. I don't know what's going on. We will see. Whatever happens, yeah, we'll keep on posting ideas to our DM. But yeah, thank you for watching. Take care, and yeah, it's time for now.
I'm a fucking artist. I'm sensitive as shit.